When we resist something, all that we can feel is the thing we're resisting. If we allow ourselves to be open, we can allow ourselves to find a balance of our own. Balance. As a lifelong yogi, I am pretty familiar with balance. As the mom of three very busy teens who is also currently juggling pretty much two careers, as well as trying to be a wife and a daughter and, an individual too. I'm super familiar with the balancing act of life. This week has been a lot of balancing for sure. In fact, I am currently recording this when I should be doing about a bazillion other things because we leave this afternoon for a family trip to Disney. We have been to Disney like a zillion times, but this time it's for a super fun reason of celebrating my parents' 50th anniversary. So we are all going, my family. So my family, the five of us, my parents, my sister, and her family. And if you have listened to the show before, you probably can guess who is in charge of planning literally every minute of this trip for 10 people. If you don't know the answer to that, I would love you to go back and listen to the rules episode and the birth order episode. But spoiler, it's me. Yay! Rooms, itinerary, meals, flights, booking their lift from the airport, the Genie Plus and the Lightning Lane reservations. I am not kidding you when I say that I got a 500 plus word email from Disney yesterday outlining the four different ways to potentially procure virtual queue spots for the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Nothing in life should be that complicated to require directions like that, let alone a ride at a theme park. So we shall see. Anyway, I have been planning and packing for this trip, plus a ton of stuff going on with school and all sorts of other stuff going on with the kids and their issues. I had one in a tailspin this week over with his girlfriend. And so I spent at least one full day on and off texts with him. I found out that I am up for post tenure review. And who knew? My chair did. He just forgot to tell us. So anyways, now I have like a couple of days to put that together. Sports games, yes, sports after school all week. So it has been a lot. So anyway, I should be doing other things, but I'm not, because I read this article that kind of struck me, because I often hear comments to the effect of, well, parents, they don't want to be parents. They want to be their kid's friend, or I'm not here to be their friend. You need to be a parent, not a friend. Parents are much too worried about making their kids mad at them, yada, yada, yada. Every time I hear or I see something like that, it really gets to me because I know I'm a parent. I know that I'm a really good mom who takes the responsibility of that role very seriously. But at the same time, I am so very happy to say that I know that all of my kids are close with me in a way that I think those people would probably consider the friend role. I mean, I know I'm not their friend in the same way that their actual friends are, and I'm not going to be hosting a kegger for them or anything like that. I'm not that mom. But I think of them as my friends. I always have to some degree. But absolutely, as I've gotten older, I share things with them. They share things with me. I talk to them in pretty much the same way now that I talk with my friends. And honestly, I really believe that they talk with me pretty much the same way that they do with their friends. I guess you could say we're kind of unfiltered, without judgment. And even with that, they're good kids. They have boundaries. They have curfews. They know that they need to get good grades. They're respectful of adults. They do what I ask them to do. They follow rules. No one questions a bedtime or my electronics policy. They don't sneak around or turn off their location on me. They don't have secret socials. And if they veer from any of these things in any way, they know I will not hesitate to call them out on it. And they will listen and they will care because they know I am their mother. There's no question about that. But yet I am their friend too. They gossip with me and giggle over stupid TV shows with me and listen to explicit music with me and share probably inappropriate memes and reels. I know about all of their friends and their girlfriends and the football team. I know who vapes and who drinks and who is hooking up with whom. I know who the mean girls are, who's quote unquote hot, and all of the tea when it comes to middle school drama. They come to me when they need advice, or when they're questioning something about their lives, or when they want to know if a text or an email sounds okay. But at the same time, if they post an inappropriate TikTok, I will be the mom and make them take it down. If they get a bad grade, I will take their distractions away and make them study. If they're on their phones or games for too long, I will make them get off. If they break a rule, they will be punished. If they cross a line, they will know it. But they never doubt how much I love them, and they never think of me as being anything but that close relationship. It's a balance, just like everything else. We've talked about relational dialectics in quite a few episodes. Remember, there are those two seemingly opposite concepts like stability and change. That although they're total bipolars, we need both of them. It's just a matter of finding the balance between them. I truly believe that this is the secret to parenting teens, to raising good kids and having good relationships with them, to everyone being happy and satisfied in this relationship, to feeling close and feeling loved, yet in control. I think a lot of parents feel like they need to be fully on the parent side, or else they'll become one of those, I'm afraid you'll get mad at me, I want to be your best friend and always make you happy and like me kind of parents. But that's not the case. Yes, your teens need you as a parent, but they also need you as a friend. You just need to balance the two roles. In my professional life, I can be both a professor and a podcaster. In my personal life, I can be both a mom and a wife and a daughter and a friend. I can have a professional and a personal life. We all can, right? We are all doing this. We all are balancing these different roles and relationships every day. So why, when it comes to parenting, would it be any different? We can be their parent and their friend. They can feel loved and disciplined. We can give them boundaries and still manage to break a few societal rules with them in other areas. We just need to have a balance between both sides. So often parents are afraid that they'll be walked all over or not respected, or rules won't be followed if they allow themselves to be somewhat of a peer, a friend, to move more towards that horizontal egalitarian relationship. It comes down to that they're basically afraid to be their child's friend. It's a social stigma that if I am my teen's friends, it means I'm buying them beer and smoking weed with them or something. So instead, they resist any type of friendship and settle into that distant, judgmental, authoritative parental figure. And what happens? Well, their teens pull away. And then it leaves parents wondering why their teens don't talk to them, or why don't I know anything about their lives, or about who they're hanging out with, or about what they're doing. When we resist something, all that we can feel is the thing we're resisting. What if we allowed ourselves to be open so we can allow ourselves to find a balance of our own? Hey guys, it's Jen. Back in our conflict episode, we talked about the fact that conflict is such a highly researched area of family communication because it impacts everyone. Conflict is an inevitable and ubiquitous part of every family's life. The only difference between functional and dysfunctional families is in how the conflict is managed. During the teen years, to many of us, it feels like conflict has dramatically escalated, right? I've had some reframing friends reach out lately about the level of conflict that they've been experiencing with their teens and the impact that it's having on their entire families. Even though it may feel icky and you might think that no one else could possibly be dealing with this, you need to know that this is a really normal occurrence. Everyone experiences conflict, and families with teens even more so than anyone else. Oh my gosh, the other day. Okay, so I should take you back about 4 to 6 weeks. My daughter had been asking to get a third hole in her ears, like a third earring. I told her, sure, but it wouldn't be back till we could get back to the piercing place that we went to last time. Well, then a few weeks ago, I picked her up from school and my husband was out of town and we had a bit of time before soccer practice. I had a pickup over at the lacrosse store for my son. So I'm like, okay, let's just stop on our way. When we pulled into the lot, lo and behold, she spots another location of the same piercing place in the shopping center that we were in now. She's like, oh, we should get my third hole and you can get some piercing too. I'm like, oh, maybe. And I went into the store. I know that she's been going through some stuff lately that I can't fix, but I also know that there are some things that I can still do to make her happy. So after I ran in for my pickup, I came out and I surprised her, shocked her by saying, okay, let's run in and get our ears pierced. So she was shocked to say the least. Anyway, fast forward a few weeks, and here we are at a soccer game. My husband is one of her coaches. Well, Band-Aids are typically okay to cover earrings for the girls if they can't take them out. But for whatever reason, this one ref wants to be a hard ass and tell her mid first quarter that she needs to take them out. Now, what happens next? I cannot tell you because, of course, I'm on the opposite sideline. However, I can tell you that I know both of the players, the actors, not the soccer players, both of the people involved in the situation very well. And the stories that I am told by each one of them, well, I can tell you that neither one of them is accurate. Neither one of these two have ever behaved nearly as rationally as they presented themselves to me in their particular versions. To hear them each recount their side of the story individually, hysterical. They were both to themselves so calm and so reasonable. And the other one, well, a total crazy person. Anyway, I don't know what went on, but I know that the earrings eventually did come out and she finally did come back into the game at the very end. Everyone came home mad. Other than that, I have filled in the blanks based on what I know about each one of them. I texted the boys as they came home from their practices. I am like, beware, you are entering a combat zone. I'm hiding upstairs. Feel free to join me. But to my husband's credit, he at least handled the at-home portion of the argument well. And by bedtime, all was well. And the next game, which was 2 days later, the first words out of his mouth to me that morning, you better talk to Ever about her earrings. Oh, it's like 6 a.m. Oh my gosh, I cannot think about this. When I drove her to school, I said, so what are you going to do about your earrings at soccer? And her response was, what do you mean? I'll take them out. Like, I was the crazy one for even thinking that there could be an issue. I can't imagine why I would ask. I am not the crazy one. I wasn't even involved in this. Anyway, we all experience it, sometimes over little things like putting dishes away, and sometimes over big things like breaking curfew, and sometimes over huge things like underage drinking. Regardless, the content of the conflict is much less important to the functioning of a family than how that family manages the conflict. Quality relationships play a huge role in the difference of how conflict impacts functional versus dysfunctional families. Yale recently published a study on conflict between parents and teens, and they found that parents can lessen the effects of conflict with their teens by showing them emotional warmth and love. That should be easy enough. I mean, we obviously love them, right? So it's the showing this to them and making them feel loved that is the mitigating factor. So that's what we're going to have a conversation about today. The relationship between conflict and relationship quality is often a difference between the behavior and the subjective interpretation of the behavior. So if you come home from work and you find your teen lying on the couch on their phone amidst the mess you ask them to clean up, there is a difference between the behavior or in this case, the lack of behavior of cleaning up, and your subjective interpretation of the behavior, which might be they don't listen, they don't care about you, they've been lying around all afternoon, they're disrespectful, and all of those other awesome subjective interpretations that we might get into our heads. Our relationship quality is impacted by the way that we frame these conflict issues. The same issue can be framed as either a behavioral complaint, so complaining about their behavior, or a personality problem. So, like, this is them. If we frame it as a complaint about their behavior, the impacts are much more positive than if we frame it as a personality problem, which both escalates the conflict and contributes to relationship distress. And none of us want to distress our relationship with our teens. In fact, we want just the opposite, right? We all want quality relationships. We communicatively maintain our families through our everyday interactions. Realistically, to keep our families functioning as this system that we've talked about it being, where everybody impacts everybody else, we're all connected, our family ties need to be maintained through routine and strategic efforts. I mean, every day we do this, right? Talking about everyone's day at dinner, planning birthday celebrations and vacations, to dealing with relationship struggles as they come up. Quality relationship maintenance keeps us feeling connected to each other. This gets more challenging as our kids become teens. No lies, no doubt. There aren't the same organic opportunities for connecting with them and showing them emotional warmth like we had when they were little. It was much easier to feel this bond when they needed us for everything. And when a kiss could heal any wound, when their eyes would light up and they'd run across a room to see us leaping into our arms. I mean, when was the last time our kid did that? I mean, mine are all bigger than me, so they certainly can't do that. When, we knew everything about their days and their lives because we were a part of it all. Now we often see them for only minutes sometimes each day, right? We know a small percentage of the people in their lives. Unless we snoop, which, side note, is definitely not the way to create or maintain quality relationships, that's for sure. We have no idea what they're even watching or laughing at or doing on those phones. And as these parent-child relationships move from being highly vertical to much more horizontal, we may also feel that the responsibility for relational maintenance should also be more horizontal and more shared. But at the same time, we're at the life stage where they literally begin to separate from us. So if you're waiting for them to make the first move, another spoiler alert, but it's going to be a while. Throughout the life cycle, both parents and children need to learn how to stay connected. Just like everything else, we need to allow them to have more independence. And that means having some agency in our connectedness. We can model our expectations by taking an interest in them and initiating the closeness. So let's start by talking about strategies for maintaining quality relationships. 6 strategies. First, confirmation of them or confirming of the messages that they're sending to you. Essentially, this is responding to them, right? We can affirm their communication by responding to them in a relevant way. It reflects that we accept them. We accept their experiences. We accept their thoughts. It suggests a willingness to become involved in them. So when they say something, listen to them. When they say something, confirm what they're saying, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. It's okay for them to feel mad about something, for them to feel sad, for them to feel left out, for them to feel excited. Whatever it is they're feeling, they have every right to feel that way. If they're frustrated with a friend or frustrated with a teacher, confirm that it's okay for them to feel that way. Yes, you'll help them work through it as well, but rejecting how they feel implies that they are wrong or it's unacceptable for them to feel that way. Maybe you do feel that they shouldn't be feeling that way, but instead you need to walk them through their feelings, maybe even saying about the other person's side of the story and what might they be thinking. But you want to make sure that you are confirming the messages that they are sending you. Second is recognition. Basically, recognition is confirming their existence, their presence. Recognize that they are there. Recognize that they play an important role in your life. Recognize that they are special, that they are loved, that you care. Think about when they were little and how easy it was to acknowledge their presence in your world, their presence in your life. And think about now, how many of those same things do you continue to do? I know one behavior that I picked up over COVID. It was when, prior to COVID, when we all had to be up and ready and out early in the morning, because I was still on campus, and they were going to school, and I would yell up to them and wake them up, or I would even go in and say, wake them up. But still, it was like a quick turnover, kind of a little bit, abrupt, and wouldn't want to say harsh, but yeah, kind of harsh-y, but like normal wake up stuff. And over COVID, because they only had to roll out of bed essentially and downstairs, and I didn't have to get dressed and ready and out of the house and everything, I kind of started this like really slow, soft opening to the day, like a slow wake up, where I would go into each of them and I kind of like snuggle up with them and wake them up gently and talk to them a little bit. And then I'll go over into the other one and I'll do the same thing and go to the third one and do the same thing. All right. So I'm getting like literally morning snuggles with all three of them. And I, show them warmth, show them love, show them affection from the very first minute that their eyes open. That's something that I didn't do for those years right before COVID. It had kind of fallen to the wayside. But think about when they were little, that was such a natural thing to do. And so there are verbal and nonverbal ways that you are recognizing, and you can recognize their presence and their importance, their existence even in your life. The third one is dialogue, talking with them. This implies an interactive involvement between you. So ask them questions, open-ended questions. Get them to respond to you. Talk with them. Pry things out of them. And when you feel like they're not giving you answers, maybe step back, maybe take a break, and then try again. But get this dialogue going. Take an interest. Don't get mad and be like, well, they don't answer me. Well, you know what? Keep trying. But you want to get that communication and that dialogue going. Fourth is acceptance. Acceptance is this having them feel accepted even when they are disagreed with. That makes us feel loved and not tolerated. So even if there is conflict or even if there is a disagreement, allow them to know that they are not being judged. We don't interpret what we think from the situation. We don't judge them. We accept them. We may disagree with them, but we accept them. We don't want them to feel like you are just tolerating them. You want them to feel like they are loved, and acceptance and accepting who they are as a person, not how you wish they were as a person, what they are doing as a person, not what you wish they were doing as a person. Show them that you accept them, and they will feel much more loved. The fifth one is rituals. You want to create and maintain these predictable rituals that you have with your children. So yes, that could go into my morning wake up. I like to wake them up. Can they get up on their own? Absolutely. They can set their clock or their phone, I guess it would be. They can set it and they can get up. But we have a ritual of me waking them up. We have our rituals in the morning of them going off to school and different things that we say or different things that we do. We have these rituals. We have vacations that we take each year. We have traditions at holidays. We have these verbals and these nonverbals that make them remember that they are part of this greater family unit, and that they can count on some degree of stability in their crazy, ever-changing lives with these rituals. And then the last one is sending currencies. Currencies are various verbal and nonverbals that are making direct statements. Okay, the act of a currency is the message: a hug, a kiss, a pat on the shoulder. Okay, saying the words, I love you. Making sure that you tell them to be careful, even though it's not like they're not going to be careful if you don't tell them to be careful. It shows that you care. Usually, the person who is sending a currency, the intent is clear and it's easily interpreted. Okay, so when we exchange these relational currencies, like these high affection kind of behaviors, it benefits all of the people involved. High affection communicators have psychological and emotional, mental, social, relationship advantages that come from this affection. And part of this affection is a sense of intimacy. An intimacy refers to a feeling of closeness and connectedness that develops between people through their communication behaviors. Now, we oftentimes think of intimacy and creating intimacy and maintaining intimacy in romantic relationships, but it's in any kind of close relationship. A close, familiar, and usually affectionate or loving personal relationship is what we are trying to create. These relationships where you have a detailed and deep knowledge and understanding of each other due to this personal connection. And so this will involve an interpersonal devotion among these different dimensions, like intellectually, emotionally, and physically. So we want to create this sense of intimacy with our children that we demonstrate by showing that we understand them, that we know them, that we know what's going on with them. We know who they are, and we accept and we understand. Close, loving relationships reflect the different aspects of our lives as they change. And so we can continue to foster communication related closeness and intimacy with our children. Okay, so we can do this through commitment. And commitment is when we show that we have the intentional direction of creating and sustaining a solid relationship, that we understand that we need to work at relationships. It doesn't just happen. Good, close relationships, you don't just sit back and they happen. It requires two things. It requires a personal dedication So you personally need to have an internal devotion to the relationship. And then it also is partially due to constraints. There are factors that bind people into relationships. So that's why right now, for those of us who have teens who are living at home still, they are bound to some degree to this relationship because, hey, they live here. But once they're out of our house, we want to still have that relationship with them. Now, the physical constraint of being in the house isn't going to be the same. It's this difference that our dedication and our commitment to the relationship and to creating this sense of intimacy have created a feeling in them of wanting to be connected with us as opposed to needing to be connected with us. And we want them to want to be connected regardless of if they need that connection with us. And then the second thing, in addition to commitment that fosters intimacy, is self-disclosure. And this is one that I think a lot of parents kind of shy away from. Self-disclosure is when you intentionally tell another person about private things. It involves a degree of risk on the part of the person who's doing the self-disclosing. But intimacy will develop from this kind of vulnerability that we have to show. Because if we show a degree of vulnerability, and this is where I think a lot of people, or a lot of parents rather, get hesitant about showing that vulnerability to their kids and not constantly showing strength. But when we can show this kind of vulnerability to them, it can also create this sense of intimacy because they maybe will be responsive of that and validate and show an understanding and caring to us and allow us to have them then reciprocate with us. And so this self-disclosure, as well as a commitment to the relationship, can make us feel in close intimacy with our children that helps to create these warm, loving relationships, in addition to the things like the communication and the conversation and the validation and the non-judgment and the verbals and the non-verbals and the rituals and all of these things that we can continue to do day after day to create these warm, highly functional, emotionally connected relationships. Now, why is this so important right now? Now that we've talked about the closeness and the intimacy and the maintaining of quality relationships, why is this so relevant? Well, I mentioned a bit earlier about that recent Yale study that looked at conflict between parents and teens. We all know it happens, and we all know that the more it happens, the more we feel our teens pulling away from us, which then kind of sets the stage for more conflict, which makes them pull away. And it's a vicious circle that makes parents feel like they have only two choices. Either one, we can just accept that this is how it is. We're the parents. We're not supposed to be their friends. There's going to be conflict. Teens are going to pull away. They're going to hide off in their rooms. They're going to grunt answers. They're going to keep to themselves. They're not going to share with us, and so on and so on. Or two, we're the cool mom who is BFFs with their kids, who the kids are running wild without discipline, without structure, without rules, because they have the cool mom. But as masters of balance, like we are, why can't we look at this like we do all of the other roles and responsibilities in our lives and understand that we can be both and avoid the negative side effects of each? The Yale study, which was published, by the way, last year in the Journal of Emotion, tracked and linked both parents' displays of warmth and their perceptions of conflict to the daily fluctuations in how loved their teens were feeling. They found that teens felt more loved on the days when parents reported showing more warmth to them, doing things like displaying affection, showing understanding, having conversations, taking an interest, giving praise. You know, the things that we've just talked about that provide intimacy and maintain healthy quality relationships. They also found that the teens felt less loved on days with more conflict. Makes sense, right? The most important thing, though, that they found was that we can mitigate those negative impacts of conflict by showing our kids warmth. When the parents did these warm, intimate, loving actions, even when there was a high level of conflict, those teens, they didn't report feeling any less loved. Conflict is normal, but most importantly, conflict is manageable. We have said it's not the content of the conflict that is important, it's the management of it. And if we show our teens warmth and effective behaviors, we manage that conflict in a way that doesn't make our teens feel any less loved. This allows us to create and to maintain a balance. We can still fight the battles when we need to, but they don't need to pull away because they feel disconnected from us. We can show them love and authority simultaneously. We can be their parent and have a more friendly relationship with them. We can do both. When we resist something, all that we can feel is the thing that we're resisting. If we allow ourselves to be open, we can allow ourselves to find a balance of our own. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to follow the show so you don't miss any new content. And please share it with your friends who might also benefit from or enjoy the show. That's how we're going to grow our community. Reach out on socials on Instagram and TikTok at Reframing Me. And on Facebook, it's Reframing Me. And join the Facebook group Reframing Me, a podcast community, to connect with other women who are also raising teens and rediscovering themselves. Until next time, be well, communicate, and find that balance.